I grew up in the U.S. and I see all these people like, yeah, nuke everybody in the Middle East and kill them all. And then they have the former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright on 60 Minutes, one of the most popular news shows in the U.S. And they ask her, they said, like, there's reports that more than 500,000 Iraqi children have died as a direct result of U.S. sanctions. And she looks back at her with a straight face and she goes, it was a really tough decision, but I think that it was worth it.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Worth murdering 500,000 kids? It's not just theoretical, these are real people with real lives.
There's a book, Death by Government, by R.J. Remmel,
who was a political scientist, taught at Yale, Indiana University, and the University of Hawaii, estimates that in the 20th century alone, there have been 262 million victims of democide.
D-E-M-O-C-I-D-E, democide. And what does it mean? It means murder of people by the government.
The number of people who have died through the acts of democide encompass approximately 4 times greater death toll than those people who have died through the acts of war.
through forced famines and the rest. There are tyrants in the world. There is evil in the world, and it needs to be quelled.
It just disgusts me what these people in government do. And they do it through central banking and through the control of the money supply. Through central banking and through the control of the money supply.
For about the last 20 or so years, I've known that fiat currency was a scam. I've kind of known that inflation can destroy your savings, government control, all the good stuff that we know. And from an early age, I was sort of trying to figure out how to not live with my whole life savings and the money I use in a bad system.
A lot of us in our generation give our attention to things that don't benefit us, give our attention to things that take away from us.
Correcting the social ills of our day will not come from the top down. It will not be done by government. It will come from the choices that we make as individuals and the spontaneous orders that emerge as a result.
Almost everyone does almost nothing regularly in crypto as far as a payment.
Marshall Greenwald, CEO of the fintech platform Ionia, says one of the main hesitations people have getting into crypto is that they don't think they can actually use their crypto for anything. Maybe it's because the media is filled with people saying this.
Cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, have no value at all, that actually don't have any real utility.
Or it could be because crypto advocates themselves often tell people not to actually use their crypto for purchases.
It is an interesting mentality to look at where people are like, yeah, you got to hold it, never spend it. I'm like, what's the good of money that you never spend? That's not money anymore.
We have the actual opportunity to have complete economic sovereignty and beyond for anyone in the world. Anyone can live permissionlessly. That creates a giant opportunity for true censorship resistance. People can't be censored very effectively if their money can't be censored.
That is the real power of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. We could bypass the state by decentralizing.
Marshall's company Ionia provided a crypto gift card service called Dash Direct for 155,000 retailers. The process is instant and demonstrates that crypto is a far cry from just being a speculative asset. You could live off it entirely today if you wanted.
Hey, you said you don't pay this. I can figure out how you can actually do that. And then, oh, great. And then everyone starts to do just a little bit.
Big breakthroughs tend to get more attention than small improvements, but what really matters are the little daily decisions and actions we take.
With mindfulness, we can choose what will strengthen and bring into action, and we can choose what we will gently let go of. We don't have to be at the mercy of old habits, or old ways of thinking, or old ways of being.
As Butler Schaefer explains, you and I can bring civilization back into order neither by seizing political power nor by attacking it, but by moving away from it, by diverting our focus from marbled temples and legislative halls to the conduct of our daily lives.
This is the opportunity of a lifetime for the human race to take a giant step towards freedom.
Hello and welcome to Incubator Weekly. This is a special, I guess, 4 times a year kind of episode in that this is our quarterly report. In this case, the quarterly report for the second quarter of the year 2023. 3 strategists, Tim, Ash, and Ryan. How are you doing this morning, fellas?
Good.
I'm pretty good.
I didn't sleep all night. My 8-month-old decided it was party time all night. So,
wow.
But I'm doing okay considering that.
Yeah, high quality problem, I guess. Well, actually, let's just start off with you, Ryan, maybe before you doze off or have any other kind of problem, in that Ryan will give us some opening comments about the performance of the incubator this last quarter. And then each of the strategists, first Ash, then Ryan, then Tim, is going to give us an overview of what he funded the last quarter, what his current financial picture is, and what he plans for the next quarter. And then Ryan will finish off our call with some closing comments and a reaffirmation of the change in the funding request model of the incubator going forward. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, I may switch up a little bit. I may go over the rule change in the course of my discussion right now, but
it's groovy too.
I'm sure you'll be able to navigate whatever off topic, off schedule thing I throw at you. So I wanted to actually, I'm going to present my screen. So give me just 1 minute. I need to screen share, and let's see if I can pick the right tab here or window. Yes, okay. There we go. So let me know when that pops up. I wanted to go through the spreadsheet, our accounting model, because I think it's the best way to kind of describe where we're at in the incubator, what we've done in the past quarter, and the rule change that we recently implemented, which we're now on version 4 of our incubator rules. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And so this spreadsheet will kind of give us a way to talk about all of those things. And I won't go into detail about our projects at this moment, just in this little brief intro thing. But yeah, we'll leave that to Tim and Ash to talk about theirs before I then talk about mine afterwards. So I have to, sorry, just a minute. I have to exit full screen so I can go back to the actual spreadsheet that I'm looking at. Okay.
And if you can zoom in ever so slightly, that might be helpful.
Yeah. Let me try this one. One zoom in, see if that stays on the page. Okay, that works. I've already reduced this menu bar as much as I can, so that's going to have to stay. Just as a reminder of how the incubator works for anybody that's totally clueless, we do task-based work, and project and task-based work. All of our funding is done directly in Dash. All of our accounting is done in Dash. We think about our national currencies, obviously, when we're pricing things to compare, but we do everything denominated in Dash. That's part of one of our principles. And so if you, just as again, a brief reminder of how things work, these are all of our tasks. This is our incubator accounting spreadsheet. This is posted on our website. I'll go to that real quickly as it loads up. And you can see already here that I'm on the Dash Incubator Rules version 4.0. I'll talk about that a little later, but if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you'll see somewhere on here is there are links to the incubator accounting spreadsheet. You can see right here. So pretty much everything in the incubator you can link to from this dashincubator.app site, and specifically rules.dashincubator.app. and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all these links. So that's how you can get to this spreadsheet. It is public, it's open access. So at this first tab here, we have our claims. This goes back all the way. Actually, this is a newer spreadsheet, a newer tab. We have our old claims tab here. So this dates back even further, but that's kind of been retired. And so we started this new version September of 2022, and it goes down all the way to the current, current. And when we pay tasks, we enter them, or when tasks are claimed and processed by one of our strategists or admins, all the data gets entered in here. And then this ready says that these are ready to pay, but haven't been paid yet. And these are the addresses and whatnot. Then that feeds into our balance sheet. It's not a balance sheet. It's actually just more like our payment sheet. This will change a little bit as I'll get into with our rule change. This delegations tab I'll talk about a little bit later. This reward summary tab is basically a summary of the claims that have been made. And so it brings in all the data here and then organizes it by quarter and by project and by strategist. And so we'll go through this. This is how I will talk about the projects that I've been working on in the past quarter. I don't know if the other guys have something else planned, but that's how I'll go through mine. And then this reserve planning tab is what I wanted to kind of briefly talk about before we get into much else. Okay, so the current state of the incubator, I think, Amanda, you characterized it as like a performance thing. It's hard to have a performance when you don't really we don't have a performance metric. I think our performance is basically how do people individually feel about the value that we're providing, and that's somewhat of an objective thing. But this is the objective state of our finances, at least. And then again, we'll talk about the projects a little bit later. But currently we have about 3,275 Dash in our total reserves. And that is split between three separate strategist reserves, me, Ryan, and so Ash, and then SpectraProd is Tim. And we are making separate proposals this month. 3 different separate proposals this month. So I don't know if actually, that's why I was kind of thinking maybe the best order to do things in is to talk about our rule change real briefly. And then it'll be easier. We won't have to dance around the subject. We'll just, everybody will know kind of what's going on. This column right here, this budget request is our anticipated, at least for SpectraProd, Tim, he's the only one that hasn't really got his proposal up and running yet, but that should be soon. Ash and I, you've probably seen 2 proposals on the network, or maybe you haven't, but there are 2 proposals on the network right now, one for 800 Dash, one for 200 Dash. And you can see them on the MNO leaderboard spreadsheet right here, Dash Incubator -Rion 2023 Q3, Dash Incubator -Ash 2023 Q3. But as you can see, these names aren't filled out. And the reason for that is Dash Central appears to be still on the 19.1, is stalled on 19.1. So as soon as Dash Central gets up to date on version 19.2 after the hard fork, then we'll be able to kind of fill in our proposals. But I just wanted everybody to know these proposals are legitimate, even though you don't see the names here. This column right here, by the way, on the mno.org leaderboard, these proposal owner names are pulled from Dash Central. Everything else is pulled from the blockchain, the URL and so forth. So just as a heads up, like these aren't scam proposals. They're a little bit unfamiliar probably in terms of the name, because we typically didn't have the name of a strategist in the slug, but now we do as a convention for how we submit proposals now. And along those lines, we did do a version 4.0 of our incubator rules. I've been talking for a while, and just somebody say something so I know that I'm still good, because I had some internet issues a little bit.
You're still good. You're still good.
Okay. Just making sure I wasn't talking into the wind. All right. So if you want to see what the changes are, a lot of this stuff is internal, so I wouldn't expect everybody to have to like follow exactly what we're doing. But as one of our key values is complete transparency, everything is kind of out in the open, how we operate. And if you want to see exactly what changed from version 3 to version 4, you just come through this link, github.com/dash incubator -dash incubator rules, and then this pull request number 12, and then you click on the files changed, and you can come through and you can see, okay, obviously it changed version 3 to version 4. And then there were there's a little bit of a mix of like minor changes and then more significant changes, but you can see on the right-hand side in green, that's the new stuff. And then on the left side is the old stuff. And I'll just scroll through a little bit so you can, it's like, this is just a formatting issue, for example. But as you kind of go through, down near the bottom is more of this substantial changes. I'll just keep scrolling through in case somebody wants to just kind of look at the video, pause and read instead of, opening up the link and whatnot. You'll be able to see all the changes right here. And then I'll highlight just verbally some of the major changes. The major change is that we're submitting 3 proposals, and that each incubator strategist is basically going to have their own proposal. So there's a few reasons for this. One of the main reasons that from the M&O perspective is that you'll have more fine-grained ability to upvote, downvote based on the leadership, the strategists that are administering projects in the incubator. So that's, I think, always a good thing. The other reason, one of the motivations for this was that as the purchasing power of Dash has decreased, we do need to request a little bit more than our 1,000 Dash that we've requested in the past 2 months to keep our operations going. And I have in the past also said that I'm not going to increase our request beyond 1,000. And so in keeping with that request, or in keeping with that personal goal of mine, we've split it up into three proposals, so that, I think that 1,000, although it's kind of like a magic number, it doesn't really have any specific significance, but I think that we should have in the Dash ecosystem some kind of line where at some point an organization becomes too big. And I just said arbitrarily, personally, that line is 1,000 Dash for me. Nobody should be asking for more than 1,000 Dash as far as I'm concerned. And if an organization does need to ask for that, they need to provide more granularity in their proposals. So that's my goal. That's what we're doing in the incubator. Whether other organizations like Dash Core Group follow that, that's up to them, obviously. But we're going to keep with that. And the other kind of major change is dealing with our internal compensation model. So before it was more of a delegated model. And that's where I'll talk about this delegations tab a little bit. The old way that we were doing things for the past 9 to 10 months, I think, was that we would have one request from the incubator, and then I would personally request a certain amount of funds from the incubator's general fund. And then the other two strategists would request a certain amount from my fund. And so it was kind of this tiered approach. And I thought that would be a good way to scale because, as contrary to some people's opinions, I don't think that a completely fully decentralized model is very scalable. So I do think that some amount of hierarchy is necessary in an organization. And so that's what we came up with before, and we had this delegation model. And you can see the delegations that we've done. And the last thing that we did before the version 4 change was I requested to transfer the remaining funds from the general fund into my personal strategist fund. And that's what you see here. So instead of doing this delegations thing, we've kind of brought the delegation up to the level of the super block and the treasury system. And so instead of me approving internally proposals submitted by Ash and Tim to myself, I'm just delegating that back to the masternode owners where it probably belonged in the first place. And so while this was kind of a stepping stone that got us to thinking about each of these strategists thinking about having personal responsibility over a budget, which we call their reserves. This was a stepping stone to get us to the point where now each of us are submitting proposals directly to the masternodes. I think that's the right approach for now, and we've all agreed on that as well. So this delegations tab, this stops here, and instead of you'll see this this delegation rate that I was getting 10% of what I was delegating as kind of a delegation reward. That's changed now as well. So instead of that, oops, we're back here to the reserve planning tab. Sorry about that. So instead of that 10% just going to me for the delegated amounts that I was delegating to the other two strategists, now that they are doing their own, they're having their own proposals, I'm going to have less oversight over them, and I'm assuming that the MNOs will pick up that oversight. And so I won't be rewarded for the delegation, but I'll be, we've changed that 10% to just being 10% of what we're actually requesting as our proposal. So this is, that's a base strategist reward. That's the max that a strategist will request from their own reserve funds, from whatever they're requesting from the network. So 10% of 800 from my example, 80 Dash per month. And then the other form of rewards for strategists, admins, is this has not changed. This has been for quite some time that the strategists can claim 20% of the tasks that they're approving. So it's a little bit of a balance. You don't want to be paid exclusively on not doing anything. That would be like having just this column, and you don't want to be paid just for 100% commission. Like you only get paid for the output that you're producing. I think this is the right balance. And people, please ask questions if you have any questions or concerns about this. But this
I have
is
a question, Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead.
We discussed before that in the model going forward, that anybody who wanted to become or remain an incubator strategist, that they would send their funding requests to an address that you control.
Yes.
And so then would you then send the entirety of the amount to them just as it's paid out? Or is that something that you would be sending to them upon completion of various things, in which case the MNOs could safely assume that actually you're doing some or all of the due diligence on that?
So my responsibility is to make sure that we are following the rules of the incubator rules, which we've just gone over, and we didn't go over in detail, but they're there. So like, for example, one of the rules is that we don't have any tasks that are over 100 Dash. So I do retain, I am in control of all the incubator addresses that these proposals are paying out to. I wanted to have that as a stepping stone because I don't want people thinking, well, I don't trust Ash or Tim with funds. Ash has had proposals on the network, so that's less of a concern. But Tim has never had a proposal on the network, and so I didn't want that to be a deciding factor on whether people vote that up or down. So I'm retaining the same level of like I'm still for better or for worse the trusted person in the in the incubator that's handling funds. And I would more than welcome a change that even further goes further and says that strategists are controlling their own funds. But I think that's a step later. But in that same respect, I think also it would be better for people to just start their own organization at that point when they want to control funds and they feel like the network should trust them enough with that. Then they might be ready to start their own organization. Period. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, I am in control of all the payout addresses, and I don't decide whether tasks that they are approving are a good strategy or not. That's their decision. I just make sure that the basic incubator rules are being followed and that we're not. And that nobody just like runs off with the funds, for example, or something. Not that I trust both of these guys, but I don't know if everybody else trusts them. And then one other thing is I'm trying to open this up to other strategists as well. That's one of the other reasons for this change is I think it makes it easier for people to join the incubator as a strategist. So to do that, all you have to do is submit a proposal that basically follows the format and the format of the incubator proposals, which we can see on the network now. And if you get funding, then I will do the dirty work of paying out tasks and whatnot, as I've always done. And you don't have to build up a reputation before you can be trusted with funds and trusted to deliver, because that's the one thing that I do maintain control over. Is I'm not going to pay out a task that hasn't been completed, for example, and that doesn't have any output. So that's kind of the level of control that I have right now. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. So I think that's I've said probably more than enough about just general changes in the incubator and where we stand. I think we'll talk a little bit more about this as each of us talk about our specific projects, but let me hand it back to you, and I've got to go grab a drink real quick.
Understandably. All right. So Ash, are you ready to
Yeah, sure.
stage? Okay.
Let's keep things simple. Ryan's completely spot on in terms of what he was saying there. I just think that the incubator itself is more of an idea, and the way we've done things historically is a specific execution against that idea. And as we've sort of worked more upstream, we're kind of opening things up more. So as Ryan says, that anyone should be able to start the incubator or join or however propose to the network and be part of that ecosystem in whatever form. And we're just trying to discover the best way to do that. But in terms of my work, let's talk about the last quarter. So for the last few months, I've mainly been focused on Maya. My budgets have pretty much been, I spent about 600 Dash, with about 500 of that being on Maya. So that is the big thing for me over the last quarter. That's been a case of taking everything that we built for ThorChain in terms of our integration there and moving that over into Maya and updating it, because there's been a lot of changes in ThorChain and hence in Maya over the last, the year that had been between the work there. And then the same applies to just getting everything up to date and aligned with Dash, the latest version of Dash. So that was a big part of the work for the last few months, just getting everything working there. And we also were part of their launch. So the way Maya works is it has validator nodes. So the closest analog to that in Dash is the actual Evo nodes for platform. So for the launch of Maya, they use these 6 Genesis nodes, and Dash was actually selected to be one of the partners for that. So we've been working on the infrastructure for that and maintaining that. So there were over 20 million added in liquidity, which is held between these 6 validator nodes, and yeah, we were chosen to be one of those. Dash was, and we were the logical choice to actually manage that, judging by our relation and our work with Maya already. So yeah, we've been working on that as well. So that's been the main project for last quarter. I've also been gearing up a lot towards the next quarter. Obviously, there is a huge pressure regarding platform. Some people are more focused on that, and some are more focused on the core sort of layer 1, I should say, or whatever you want to call it, layer 1, or just the core protocol side of things. But for me, based on current sort of estimates, like platform should be here in before the end of the year. We've had this before, I know, but it really looks like we're getting there now. And my goal for the next quarter is really to get things aligned and launched ready for that. And what that will look like in terms of my work is to have an extension wallet, which is akin to MetaMask, which I've discussed before, and to have a library for dApp developers to use, where they'll be able to communicate with that extension wallet, and that wallet will write to platform on behalf of the decentralized application. And then alongside all of that, I want to have 3 to 4 reference decentralized applications utilizing this extension. And I want to, it's designed to be open. So anyone that's currently building a dApp and they're using import your seed words or write your seed words into a little text box, this is designed to take away from that. And that's a great way to develop, because it makes things easier. You're not relying on a third party, but we want it to be a really smooth flowing system where you can take your DashPay identity between decentralized applications and just use these things. In terms of what Dashcore are building, they're a bigger sort of entity, and they're focused more on the username based system inside the mobile wallets. But for Dash platform to succeed, in my view, and I think they agree that it's just a longer term cycle for them, is to actually have those decentralized application developers being able to work with a wallet. So there needs to be that interoperability between everything. So that's the big focus for the next few months. And so for the last quarter, my focus was obviously Maya, but also gearing things up towards that. So working with more developers, onboarding some more to build some simple dApps. So there is the decentralized password manager, which is a decentralized alternative to LastPass. So it will store encrypted passwords onto Dash platform. They'll obviously be fully encrypted. There's no security risk there, really. Well, there will be, but that's going to be managed. And then you'll be able to retrieve those passwords and auto log in. So rather than saying, oh, I'm going to store my passwords on Google Chrome or trust LastPassword or whomever, however you want to approach that, it'll be fully decentralized. And it's a simple, like a great use case for platform. It's very simple, and it should be a really good reference project for other developers. So yeah, I'm just gearing up for this next quarter. The last one was Maya. The next quarter is going to be all platform. In terms of Maya, I guess the latest timelines, people would be curious on that kind of thing. We've resolved a few issues with the Dash chain client recently. We've helped with the infrastructure in terms of testing. The hope is that by the end of this week, it'll be ready for testing for actual full live launch in a couple of weeks or a few weeks. So yeah, that's the current sort of timeline. I will keep everyone updated as much as I can on that. Obviously, this has been a long time coming. We started the ThorChain work a long time ago, but I'm just really excited for seeing that go live and yeah, working to help grow that. So that's been my quarter and my plans for the next. In terms of what else, my financials are obviously very strong. As Rion said there, I have almost 1,900 Dash held in reserve. So my request for this next quarter is only 200 Dash a month, just to keep the buffer sort of slightly. I will be eating heavily into that reserve over these next few months based on my projections, but that's a healthy way to do it. I don't think it's good for me to have as big a reserve as I have, whilst Rion and Tim's are less. I want everyone to have that buffer of security. Yeah, I do hear something in the background. I think it's coming through someone's microphone. it's my own voice coming through someone's microphone. So Amanda, I don't know if that might be yours or
it must be me.
I don't think it's too noisy from the outside. My voice is a lot louder. I just talk a lot. So yeah, my buffer is very healthy. I feel, the work that I'm doing is adding a lot of value. So I'm ready for this next quarter. I'm excited to build out these projects and this wallet, and keep going from there, really, going strong. Any questions?
Amanda, can you flip back to my spreadsheet real quick? I just want to give people an idea of what Ash is talking about there.
Do you want me to cover it?
Yeah. Well.
Oh, you got the mouse. To be fair, you go ahead.
Feel free to jump in. I'll say some things and feel free to jump in. So Ash's current reserve is 1893 Dash, and so his current request is 200. He's projecting. He's building up. He's got a lot of plans, right? He's got a lot of plans for this upcoming quarter. So he's thinking that he's going to be dishing out 450 Dash for all of his projects that he's
per month. That is, yeah. This is a month by month projection.
Month by month. So you can see the units right here, the Dash per month. This is Dash per month, and so forth. But what that results in is, he's going to be running a deficit of 360 Dash per month, based on, he's bringing in 200, he's requesting 200, but he's shelling out 450 plus up to 110 that he might claim for himself. Again, these are maximum numbers. Strategists don't have to claim up to this peak, but that could be, a 360 Dash deficit. So at the end of the month, he starts with 1893, he ends up with 1533, and so that's a 2.7 month buffer at the end of month one in this quarter. But as that deficit continues, it's another 360 deficit. Now he's down to 2.1, another 360 Dash deficit. Now he's down to 1.5. And that's kind of how we've decided on the amounts that we are requesting. We're looking ahead at the projects that we have planned and how much we project to have to pay to those, including our own payments, and then that results in a deficit. Nobody's got a surplus here yet, so we're all running in the red here, and so all of our buffers are going down, and you can see at the end of the quarter, this is assuming that we all get funded each month of this quarter. We'll only have a 1.4, 1.5, 1.2 month buffer after that. So just that's the state of things right now. We'd like to request less, obviously, but we have certain projects that we've started, and the last thing that you want to do is not complete a project, because then it's absolutely worthless. So you have to plan to complete these projects to a point at least where it's a usable proof of concept. Otherwise, it was all wasted investment. So that's kind of where our requests are coming from. So go ahead. I don't know if you wanted to say any more about that, Ash, or if you will.
Yeah, just to touch on that. Obviously, we're all really passionate about what we're building and the value that we're offering, and we can all sort of somewhat explain like our budgets and our goals there. I think for me, I really don't want platform to go out the door and just fall flat on its face. I think the surrounding ecosystem, yes, platform is going to go out, and there is going to be a period of growing momentum and trying to, win more developers and start this flywheel effect. But if we launch it and people start seeing, oh, evolution is here finally in Dash, and they go on it and they see that it's a mobile app with usernames, and they don't understand the differentiation between that and looking at, say, unstoppable domains or Ethereum names. We do all these things. Like, for example, we were communicating GroveDB, and GroveDB is fantastic. It's brilliant. But the benefits are hard to sell to people that might get that passion about Dash and understand it. And I know we're not just doing this for getting people involved in Dash, but that momentum is really important. And if we launch platform and it's not ready for developers to build against with a good suite of a DApp library and a wallet that they can interact, they can just open access to all those users. I think that's going to be a real failure on our part. So I'm just super keen to get that out the door and ready, because I know platform is coming, as we've been saying for a long time. But yeah, that's just, we're all very passionate about our individual work, and I'm sure Rion will talk about his and Tim theirs as well. But that's just my focus for this next quarter and where I'm trying to put that budget.
So you obviously spoke about Maya. The only other two projects that you funded in the past quarter were the password manager and the Dash payroll.
Yeah, I touched on the password manager. So as I mentioned, that's kind of like a decentralized LastPass or 1Password built on Dash platform. That's early stage, so we're still like understanding. We were looking at Bitwarden, which is all fully open source. I think it was Bitwarden, yeah. And we're seeing if we could modify that or create a sort of fork of that supported Dash platform, but it wasn't really viable. So we are kind of building this from the ground up to a degree. Yeah, that was the other one. Obviously, the wallet, like I've mentioned, it was more gearing up towards what they're heavily underway. I have weekly calls with the team working on that. They're just getting all onboarded, and we've got a full sort of plan to MVP with about 400, 500 hours of development time. So it should be ready by the end of, more demos in the next sort of couple of months, and then demos, but actual testnet versions for people to install and try out.
Great. Should we move over to Tim?
I think we should.
Here's a list of the projects that you funded in the past quarter, Tim. I don't know if you want to use this list as your springboard to talking about them or not, but feel free to.
That works.
Okay.
Although when I was looking through it, there are, for whatever reason, there's actually two that are missing.
What two are those?
Reinvestment from the blockchain is missing from that. And the gold challenge one was missing. I went through to verify that those had actually been, so something with the pivot table is not.
Okay.
Fine.
I'll have to look.
That's fine. I noticed it and I like pulled them into my notes. So
okay, gotcha.
Just know that there will be two lines. They're like, what is he talking about? And they're not actually on the screen, and that's okay.
This is Q2, so I wonder if there's just some weird filter on here.
It's something. It's okay.
We'll go. I'll debug that later.
So the bulk of my projects are in that group of what Ash was talking about, where it's those reference projects for platform and tools to get people using that we're already used to using in many ways, and gives you a Dash alternative or a Dash focused way of doing that. So Dash Stamp at the top of that list is a notary service for verifying documents, and Sodality is an interpretation of what we do, or not what we do, but what is used with Patreon. And then the Gold Challenge is a bet on yourself app where you set a goal with a group of other people or by yourself and bet that you can reach that goal. Quite a bit of what was spent in the last quarter has been, as platform has upgraded, bringing these back up to continue working with and making them a little bit more future proof, so that as further upgrades happen, everything doesn't need to be redone, or so many components don't need to be redone each time. And then the other piece of that is you'll see the decentralized application infrastructure on there, and that is utilizing both platform and IPFS storage. And so a lot of this is working to bring these pieces together so that they can be cross references to each other and using common components, and be able to have a library of examples of commonly used components in different places with different applications and in different use cases. And so most of these are actually moving along similarly. I was actually surprised when I was looking through the progress of each one of them, that I wasn't trying to move them along at pace, but they're all in this proof of concept stage where the web app pieces are working, the back end stuff needs to be plugged in, and we're just waiting for that final release of platform to be able to pull everything together. And that was a bit surprising, and like I said, it was unexpected. And it points to one of the places where I'm finding needing help that we haven't had before is test users from a user experience. Everything so far has really been just make the technology work and get something that you can do stuff with. And most of these are now at a point where, well, doing this stuff works, but it's kind of clunky, and it could use some refinement and improvements because it's developers working on them and not product designers like building these out. And so part of the goal for Q3 is actually going to be those user interface and user flow pieces, making these, I mean, they're not going to be enterprise grade apps because we don't have teams of dozens of designers and project managers and program managers to throw at them, but making them so that they are solid and that we like using them. In my experience, one of the biggest issues that I've come across as a very non-technical user, I know just enough about the technologies to really get myself in trouble if left to my own devices. But as a very non-technical user, one of the biggest issues that I come across within any blockchain ecosystem is that it just doesn't feel as good as Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. Yeah. And some of it is just the maturity. A lot of it has to do with the fact that so many of the people with that level of talent are recruited so early into those programs. And once you're like, I mean, as we all know, it takes a bit of eye-opening to come out of that and get your head up out of the clouds and say, oh, wait a second, maybe this isn't where I want to spend all my life and all my energy. And so there's almost a bit of a need to begin to recruit a lot of that talent for making things buttoned up and polished, because that's what we're up against, is we're up against really refined products. And so a lot of my focus is going forward, and I've begun to apply myself very little bit to this, is, okay, what makes this a really solid experience versus what makes this an experience that works and gets the job done? How do we make it so it's really enjoyable from that user experience, from the common user experience, where I don't feel like I have to wrestle with what makes blockchain feel so difficult so much of the time? Yeah, that is one of the exciting pieces that I like about what platform and the vision for it there is that specific thing.
I don't think anybody's really expecting, super polished enterprise grade, as you say. That's usually a slur these days. Software. We are an incubator. I would like to get the user experience as good as possible, but at the same time, we're not a venture-backed organization that has millions of dollars to throw at these projects, and we're dealing with a lot of projects. So a lot of our stuff is experimental. And if any of these projects take off, I would guess that in order to do them justice, you would actually have to put some more serious funding behind them after you've proven the concept in the incubator. I don't know if the incubator has the amount of funds to really take any single one of these, let alone all of these projects, to really excellent user experience. But that's a separate discussion. I kind of wish that, that's a separate discussion that I'd like to have sometime about how I think that Dash really could compete with venture capitalists, but don't get me into that right now.
Well, and I don't think it's necessary to have everything as a fully buttoned up product. But there are things that there are things that I know that I can be doing and that I'm going to be focusing on to take it to that next level where it goes from, okay, I see what this is supposed to be doing, and moves it into, okay, I like using this. No, it's not going to be a venture-backed product. It's not going to be as smooth and as clean as so many of the apps that we have on our phones. And that's fine. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. But to get it to a point where where I could hand something over as a concept to Dash Marketing and say, hey, go put some budget behind this and let's get the word out about this and generate a bit of a user base for it.
Gotcha. Amanda, do you remember, did we go over an hour last quarterly? You're muted. You're muted.
That's why I never mute myself, because then I have to remember we did not go over an hour last time. I would hope that we don't this time.
Okay, let's flip back over to that spreadsheet. I'll run through my projects as quickly as I can. Mine are up top here. I'm the big spender here. Sorry. Not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I have my strategy is focusing on what we know has product market fit. We know that Dash, and just part of the identity of Dash, right? I have stepped away a little bit away from focusing on platforms. So thank you, Tim, for kind of picking that up, those projects specifically. I'm focusing on the payment tools, as you can see. That's what I spent the most on. We need very good payment tools in order for Dash to be a great project. Dash specifically, not like not a project that's building on Dash, but Dash itself. So that's that top project. I do expect that's going to be, I'm going to fund that less in the next quarter because we're basically mostly done with some of the fundamental components there. As you see here, Dash Private Send. This is, we're trying to bring CoinJoin into the browser, into a JavaScript implementation. And that's what that project is. We've got Will working on that, excellent developer, but struggling a little bit right now with lack of documentation. So he's kind of trying to reverse engineer how CoinJoin is implemented without 100% documentation on that. So he does have experience with C++, so he's able to dig into that code a little bit. But there's just a lot of learning to do, and I'm happy that he's kind of doing that because we need a good C++ aware and Dash Core wallet software aware developer in the incubator. So a lot of his work has been getting up to speed on all things blockchain, all things Dash.
You froze for me.
With the CoinJoin protocol. The merchant tools, this is kind of a step from the payment tools. So payment tools are those things that were low level that AJ's been working on, and the merchant tools are kind of bringing those low level components together in a way that serves merchants. And one of the reasons I think this is probably going to continue to be funded in this next quarter, somewhat significantly, because merchants are the bread and butter of the Dash project. This is, as far as I'm concerned, that's what Dash is all about, is real goods and services being exchanged for money. So the payment tools project, while that's, that kind of helps people pay each other peer-to-peer, and then maybe no goods or services are involved in those payments. But the merchant tools are specifically for merchants who need to monitor the blockchain for a payment for a specific product, things like that. Incubator updates is this current thing that we're doing right here, the Incubator Weekly. So I've noticed that this is a little bit higher than I'd like it to be in the future. A lot of this was kind of getting up to speed, and I expect this to be a little bit lower in the future. But I think it's important work, not only for the community to kind of know what we're working on, but also for the developers so that they can have something kind of like a deadline, like you're presenting Monday, so you better have something to present. That helps us keep on our toes internally as well. The web wallet, we do want an incubator specific wallet that's JavaScript. User experience, sorry, everybody else, but like all the JavaScript haters, but all the UX experts are in JavaScript land. So if you want a great wallet with a great experience with all the unfortunately, we can't have like a Dash direct integrations, but those integrations, those type of integrations, everything that Dash can do, like the CoinJoin, if you want that in a web browser, in a web wallet, that's what we're building. So I don't have enough time to talk about all the details here. CrowdNode, we're kind of wrapping up with more to say there. I would like to actually maybe have some kind of CrowdNode alternative that's incubator funded, but that would be a separate project. We need shared master nodes, I think, is a very important concept that CrowdNode is doing, but I don't think the user experience is lending itself to having a bunch of people wanting to set up shared master nodes. So we might look into doing something along those lines in the future. Strategy oversight, this is going to be changing. Like that, I talked a little bit about that. That there will be a different, that'll be called something different next quarter. Web framework integrations. This is Anthony Campolo is working on this. He's the guy that's been streaming a little bit from the incubator channel, using ChatGPT to help. We've just got started on this project. We only threw 60 Dash at this past quarter. I expect to do a little bit more on this. We've been trying to help the AnyPay guys still. You want to have a good product that's already working, so we're trying to help these guys fix bugs and whatnot, and we're doing a good job there, I think. This is just internal projects, and yeah, Electrum Dash. A lot of people want to see more from us on Electrum Dash, but you have to have a developer that's willing to work on it. And right now, the only developer I'm comfortable with working with is Bertrand. He's an expert guy with Python, and he knows Dash inside and out. He just doesn't have the time in the past quarter. So if you want to ping him and have him work more on Electrum, that I guess could help. But I think he did say that he has a little bit more time in the future. So anyway, 2 minutes left. I don't know if we can wrap up that quickly, but I'm done with my project review.
I think that we can wrap up that quickly, so
Okay.
long as no one has any more speeches to give. And I think that we don't have any questions in the queue. So yeah, thanks for watching today. And that is going to be the end. So let us say goodbye, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks, guys. You'll see our proposals filled out shortly. I think Rango's working on it right now. So getting Dash Central back up. Bye.